let me start biodiversity, and there we will end the last part. I will basically take it as a quiz mode. I'll ask you questions from the last part of chapter 14. Okay, we'll see how we are able to connect both of them together. Okay, so chapter 15 is biodiversity and its conservation, correct?
Yes, sir. It's actually biodiversity and conservation. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we are basically conserving biodiversity only, so that's why. Okay, so let me ask you a very simple question before we start this chapter. So if I ask you, we're going to discuss biodiversity, let's say, but if I ask you, what do we mean by biodiversity? What do you understand by biodiversity? Do you see? So it's the same thing. So as I asked in the beginning of the last class to Arpit, do you see ecosystem around you? Or to see an ecosystem, do you have to go to a forest? So there were some, no, right? There were some answers given, and we realized that ecosystem is all around us everywhere, right? So let me ask you, if so you agree that you have ecosystem around you, right? In the cities where you live, correct?
Yes, sir.
Even even in a drop of water, if we take it from a pond or any freshwater source, or where life can survive, we will find a system developing. But what do we understand by this term, biodiversity?
So it is like, so different types of flora and fauna around our environment.
Different type of flora and fauna. Okay, so do you see different type of flora and fauna around you?
Yes.
So do you see biodiversity in a sense? If I ask you, do you see biodiversity around you? Just like same question that we ask for ecosystem. Do you see
Yes.
biodiversity around you?
Yes, sir.
Everywhere? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Everyone agrees that you see biodiversity. So let's come to flora. So what do you see in flora around you? Floral biodiversity. So this word biodiversity, it is two words, bio and diversity, right? The word bio means life, diversity means so bio means life and diversity means variety. Cool. So we know that there is lots and lots of different kinds of microbes. Everyone will agree. Even in a handful of soil, you will find lots of microbes. But when we go higher, if I ask you, do you see a lot of animal biodiversity around your place where you live? What will be your answer?
Not too much.
Not really, right? You see humans around you. What else do you see? Cats, dogs?
Animals as well.
Yeah, what animals?
Dogs, cats.
These are two, plus humans, three. Three different types of animals you see around you. That's it?
Insects.
Insects, yes. What all
But
insects do you see around you?
The reptiles.
You see reptiles around you? Where do you live? Which reptiles have you seen around you, Arpit? Let's go with that. So let's start with your neighborhood. So why I spent some time asking these questions is because I believe if you're just going to read NCERT, it's not a big deal. Everyone can read NCERT, and biology is one of the easiest subjects to pass in. But as I told you, it is one of the toughest subjects to master, because as you go to learn more and more, it will never end. Biology is a never ending. Even if you want to read about insects, you can spend your whole life reading about insects, researching about insects, and you will die being called an entomologist. So entomologists are those who study insects. Okay, forget about reptiles or birds or animals in general, just insects. Okay, even in insects, there are people who just study butterflies or honeybees for the whole of their life and could not still figure out answers to questions which were asked 20-30 years back. So there's no end to it, but it's very easy because there are some fundamentals that you can hold on to, read, remember, cram, mug up, write in exams, done and dusted. Not very much, very few aspects of biology at your level are curiosity driven, or I should say innovation driven. So because most of it is facts. So I ask these questions so that you understand why this chapter at all is in your book. What if there were just 14 chapters? Would you have felt that, oh, my syllabus is over, but I miss something, I miss learning something about biology? No, right? Even if there were 10 chapters, you will not know which 6 chapters were missing from your coursework, right? Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So, but the point is, the chapters which are included, why are they there? What do you learn from them? If you can make in your mind a mind map, a connection dots between different chapters, that's done. So in your neighborhood, if we talk about diversity of life, so what all things do you see? You see cats, dogs, you might be seeing cattle around you, goats, right? At the very best. What else? You see insects. In insects, you might be seeing mosquito, cockroach, housefly, butterflies at the most, right? And Arpit said reptile. So which reptile do you see around you, Arpit?
The lizards.
Lizards, correct. So you see lizards, which are house lizards or garden lizards, right? Which are called calotes. You might not be seeing chameleons around you. Often people confuse calotes with chameleon. Chameleon are not found very commonly around us. Okay.
So I have
And
seen them in my garden.
chameleons.
Yeah.
Where is your garden situated?
Sir, in my house out.
Where is your house situated?
Sir, it is in Chandigarh.
So you have find chameleons in Chandigarh?
I'm not sure. Like it does look like a chameleon.
Okay. So how do you distinguish a chameleon? How do you know that it's a chameleon?
Sir, its size and its color changing property.
Okay.
I've seen it changing its color twice. So.
Okay. I'll show you one photo and you have to tell me, is this what you're calling a chameleon? It's a photo which I took. Let me see if I have the photo. I'm not sure if I have it, but just give me one moment, because you say it so and I found it intriguing. So let me just ask, let's see how much we'll conserve biodiversity in a moment. Let me first know. I'm intrigued about Arpit's biodiversity now. Just 1 second, okay. Anyone else has seen chameleon in their neighborhood?
Not
Oh,
in my
definitely
name.
not. No, definitely not.
Yeah.
Definitely not. Okay. So I think, yeah, so it depends on where are you situated also. But anyways, Arpit might have seen, but let me ask if this is the chameleon he has seen.
Sir, have you seen a iguana?
Not in real.
Is it an anole?
Is it a?
It's called an anole. Like it's like a chameleon, but then like it's like
Yeah,
green
sir,
color.
it was like an iguana, like smaller version of it. Eyes was small,
Okay.
but bigger than a house lizard. It was dangerous.
Was this the one that you saw? I don't know if you can see it in my phone, but what I have to do to.
Oh yeah, that's an anole, sir.
Have you
Is
seen
it?
this,
I think
Arpit?
so.
Sir, wait, it's getting blurred. Wait.
So I think I'll have to
Just one.
unblur your
Wait, 1
background.
moment. I think there's this weird thing that you have to blur the background. Yeah, let me not blur the background. Now can you? Is this what you have seen?
No, sir, I guess this was not. No.
No. Okay. Then probably
Does it look like a house lizard?
that's not a that's garden lizard. That's
No.
calotes.
Yeah, I know that. No, it's a button to outfit.
Yeah. So if Arpit has
Sir,
seen
I'll
a
click a
chameleon,
picture.
is it this what you have seen?
Sir, it was like a bit smaller, but the tail was like same.
Tail could have been same, but like yeah, it could be a bit smaller. But do you understand what do I mean? So chameleons, their eyes a little out, and they can rotate their eyes differently.
Could it be this one? Because this lizard could also change color.
Okay, let me see.
Calotes can change their color.
No, actually they can, but it's not the way chameleon changes color.
Yeah, I know that, but then I thought it could be that because he said it's
Yes.
kind of
So
similar.
so let me copy this image if I can copy it, and I don't know if I can. Just give me 1 second, people. If I can copy it, I'll show you what. Yes, I can. Okay. Oh, but that's
So
a
you can share
PNG.
in the you can share in the chat room.
It's not working actually. Okay, anyways, but what I wanted to next time, if you see Arpit, I'm giving you a task, okay, or anyone sees, you have to see if the lizard has digits like this, where you can count. They might not be 5, they may be 4 basically, but can you count those digits separately? Because in our in Matthew's photo, Matthew has sent a photo. It's the kind of lizard that I showed you. You know, their digits are separate. You can count it, right, Matthew?
Sir, can Matthew share
Yeah,
it
sir.
in the chat room? I just want
Matthew
to
has
say
sent it
it.
in the chat room. Matthew, can you send it to everyone? I think you sent it just to me.
Yeah, sir. I don't have the
Yeah.
option to do that.
So chameleon, you will not be able to count the digits. For a chameleon, just have grip like this because it only walks. So it only has 2 things where it can just close the thing, like the hand, the grip like this. No distinguishable digits. That is one way.
It's called a green anole, like ANOLE.
LE, yeah.
Yeah, ANOLE.
Anyways, but good that you people see these things and click photos. I was thinking I'm the only weird person around, but it's good to be weird. It's good to know what is around you. Okay, if there are lizards around you, you know there are many snakes around all of us which we never know. We think they are not there, but they are there. Anyways, the question was, when we see lots of organism around us, is it a thing to worry or is it something natural? So in the present context, when human wants to live, they want to live away from reptiles because of course they could be, they could be dangerous or deadly. So you would not like reptiles like snakes or scorpions to interact with you. That's one thing. So when we make cities, our cities are very less in they don't have much diversity when it comes to higher organisms. But humans live everywhere. But if we are just going to live on the planet, share the planet with cats, dogs, and cattle, the planet is not going to sustain. So we need to conserve this biodiversity somewhere. Now, how do we do that and where do we do that is a part of this chapter that we will discuss. But do you understand that when I talk about diversity, I'm not sure unless and until I define at what level I want to study the diversity. Because in your home, even in your house, there will be a diversity of microbes. Howsoever you want to clean your house, there will always be diversity of microbes in your house. Forget about your house, your mouth, our body has a diversity of microbes in it, right? So first thing that's important to understand is what is the level at which we are defining the diversity of life and studying it. So first write down this term biodiversity. It was popularized by not a hardcore molecular biologist or ecologist. It was popularized by a sociobiologist. You know what? Who are sociobiologists? Who try to understand social interactions among biological systems. Okay, and his name was Edward Wilson. He's not that famous, but he's a very prominent guy in biological research, ecological, especially biodiversity. Now, for studying biodiversity, there are various levels at which you can study. Just like ecosystem, biodiversity also can be studied in lab, it can be studied in a forest, it can be studied in your house, within your body, etc. Okay, so out of all, there are many levels at which it is studied, but for your course, I think the most important ones will start from the very small. Within every cell also, there is something which is different from each other. So if I take 50 different kind of bacterial cells, okay, all are unicellular organisms, but all will be different in what? What is one bacteria different from other bacteria in? It cannot be the shape of eyes or how do they look, or it could be how do they look, but mostly not the morphological features most of the time, but it is something which is inside. Can you tell what is inside a bacterial cell which makes one bacterial cell different from the other?
DNA.
DNA, perfect. So the first level where this biodiversity begins is at the genetic level. Okay, so even at a molecular level, you can understand genetic diversity, which comes under biodiversity because genes are only present in living systems. Okay, so write down what does genetic diversity means. The first, it is where a single species of bacteria, of an animal, bird, plant, anything, a single species show high diversity. High diversity at the genetic level. Okay. In its habitat or over its distributional range, genetic level over its, you can also write throughout its distributional range or geographical range. Now what does it mean is There is, so you all must have had different types of mangoes, right? We all enjoy different types of mangoes. Anyone remember some names of famous mango varieties?
Alfonso.
Alfonso is one. Yep. In India, there are quite few. Chausa, Safeda, Dashehri, right? There are
Yeah.
many more. Do you know they're
Sindhi.
all, yes. Do you know they're all varieties of the same species? And they all are Mangifera indica. And Mangifera indica is native to Australia. It's Australian native plant. But Mangifera indica has many varieties of mangoes which differ in color, taste, the um, kind of pulp it will contain, even the tree, the length of the tree, the width of the tree, that also differs. So that is because of genetic diversity at the level of same species. Even in human beings, we are the same species, right? Homo sapiens, everywhere around the world. But we are so diverse from each other, correct? In terms of if you see anatomy, like anatomy will be more or less same, but in terms of, when I say anatomy, I mean shape, size of the organ, physiology, our immune systems, our height, build, muscle mass, hair texture, eye color, skin color, everything is very, very different from each other because of genetic diversity. And sexually reproducing organisms need to have this genetic diversity so that they can evolve as a species. So when we study one single species, but we see a lot of diversity in that, we call it genetic diversity. So this is level 1. Is it clear? Is it clear,
Yes.
everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you can write down some examples. And yes, while I was checking your paper, so you people have given 6 mock tests by now, and I would like to just tell, because Fatima, Arpit, and Matthew are here. So all 3 of you are doing good, really good. I am very happy by Arpit's performance. The latest ones that you have given. You may not have received the marks, but Matthew is also consistently doing good. Sometimes Matthew just, it's like Matthew's graph is going up, 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 and there's a dip. So I just assume that maybe you were not preparing for that exam, or you had some exam already in your school.
So which one was it?
I think it was 5 or 6, the latest one.
Oh, the last and latest one I was not reading because I had practicals going on this week.
Yeah. Fatima is also doing consistently good, but Fatima has not given all the exams, right, Fatima? You've given very few. Have you
Yeah.
given? Let me check. I think you have given 2 exams out of 6. Yeah. Please give exams, right? These mock tests are for you. And I hope even if you are not giving exams, you have all the 6 question papers with you with the answer key.
Yes.
So the answer key is for you to know what you could have written the best. Okay. So you analyze your own marks, which I have given. If I have deducted 1 mark, sometime I have not written the reason for that. Mostly I do that, but because you people are also being given the answer key, so you can just go back to the answer key and see what you have missed. Okay, cool. Anyways, yeah, so just wanted to say that. So from genetic diversity, now we come to the second level. Let's go one step up. Now let's see within the species. So after genetic diversity, we see species diversity around us. So when Arpit said that he sees around him cats and dogs, all these cats and dogs are not of the same species, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I was just about to forget. Before that, examples. So I was saying that when I was checking your papers, I realized that you people don't give examples. You're not in a habit of giving examples for anything that is asked. So if in a question there is an example that can be given, if there is a scope of giving examples, please do that. It's a very good way to fetch marks in your boards. Okay. So for genetic diversity, what will be the example? One will be
Mango.
varieties. Yes, different varieties of mango. So if I'm not wrong, there are more than 1000 varieties of Mangifera indica only. Okay. And I also told you about varieties of rice. Again, the same species. Sativa moriza, that's the rice, and it has more than 25,000 varieties based on genetic differences. So varieties of
Sir, all
mango.
sorts of fruit have a very vast variety. Like,
Yes, right.
yes.
All sorts of fruits have very vast varieties because you must have heard this concept of, or your mother speaking about it, that this is a hybrid tomato or a hybrid cucumber, and this is a, the native cucumber, right? Or the native tomato. So those are all varieties. If any one of you have been to a tomato field ever, which is not a hybrid or genetically modified tomato plant, you will never see very beautiful red, big, juicy tomatoes. So in nature just nature doesn't want to make things beautiful. It wants to make things useful. So tomatoes normally are not very red and juicy and big. They are smaller. They may be half greenish, half reddish, and by the time they become red, the tomato plant is already gone. Okay, and the fruit then decays, or birds or something, insect starts eating it, and then the seeds go back in the soil and the plant grows back. That is the whole purpose. But when we cultivate it agriculturally, we use hybrid varieties which can give more yield, bigger, juicier red tomatoes that you buy from market. Okay, so varieties of mangoes could be one example. You can also say it could be medicinal plants. All the medicinal plants that grow in the Himalayan region, medicinal plants in the Himalayan ranges. All these medicinal plants, if you grow it somewhere else, they will show you genetic diversity, a lot of genetic diversity, because they are growing in different geographical locations. Okay, so a mango which is grown in South India versus North India versus Australia versus America, they will have genetic diversity even if they are single species. Same is with medicinal plants in the Himalayan ranges. Is that clear, everyone? Now let's come to species diversity. Now what do we mean by species diversity? Now we have to go, we are studying multiple species, and in the same habitat, you will see that if you are studying two habitats or two geographical locations, at one there will be a greater genetic diversity, not genetic, a greater species diversity for the same kind of organism. For example, how many of you know about the eastern and western Ghats of India?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
So what are these? What are eastern Ghats and western Ghats? What kind of ecosystem are they?
mountainous.
Mountainous. They're not quite mountainous. Like there's no snow on eastern and western Ghat. So when you say mountain leopard, mountainous ecosystem, it goes more
Sir, they
towards
are
colder.
mountain
Yeah.
ranges, right?
They are ghats. There's a difference between ghats and mountain ranges. So eastern and western Ghats, the forests there are more of like evergreen rainforests, right? They get a lot of rain. They don't get snow or a lot of cold every time, but they get a lot of rain. Do you understand that? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So what is the characteristic of a rainforest? It has lots of water all the time, right? And you will see a lot of species of amphibians living in rainforests. So why amphibians can live in rainforests and not somewhere else very effectively?
Because they live in land and water.
They require water and land both to complete their life cycle, correct? Yeah, that's
Yes,
a good point. But even if you compare the species richness of amphibians in eastern and western Ghats, you will see there will be a difference. Okay, so in general, western Ghats have a greater diversity of amphibians than the eastern Ghats. So when we study at the level of species, we will know that one habitat have more diversity of that kind of organisms, another can have less. So where would you find, so if you compare, let's say, two arid regions, you might find reptiles there, but not amphibians. Okay, like in a desert, you can find many reptiles, but not amphibians for sure. So write down the diversity at the level of species. The diversity at the level of species when compared between two different but similar habitats. So different in their location, but similar in their kind of ecosystem. Okay.
so
Yes.
if there is a similar habitat, then why the species are not on the both sides? Like if you're saying about the eastern and western Ghat, if they have the same habitat, so
That is what diversity means, right? Even if you say that there are two lakes, both are lakes. So you go to two lake systems in the same country, even in the same state, you will not see exactly the same kind of species diversity in both the lakes. So the same question could have been that why, if they are same species, why there is a genetic diversity? Because there will always be a genetic diversity, and hence there will always be a species diversity, because sexually reproducing organisms need to have variations, and these variations create diversity. Is it clear?
yes.
Yeah. So this diversity is not created on purpose. It just comes up because of it's like it starts at genetic level. Now you will say why there is a genetic diversity? Because there is recombination. So this kind of science is called, what do you call it? Where you go deeper and deeper and deeper, and at every level you will find an answer. Okay, so we are dissecting out reasons why there is species diversity, because there are many species. Okay, why within the same species there is genetic diversity? Because there is recombination that happens in sexually reproducing organisms. Correct? So you can write down example: Western Ghats having greater amphibian species diversity. Western Ghats having greater amphibian species diversity as compared to Eastern Ghats. Now that's not it. It's not like it's over. Even when we go one step ahead, I hope you people can allow me if I eat chocolate while teaching.
Oh, no problem, sir.
Yes,
Yeah, thank
obviously.
you so much. Thank you so much. I'm just craving for something sweet. Okay, so even when we go one step ahead of species diversity, so what comes up the species? What are Eastern Ghats, Western Ghats? Ecosystems, right?
Yes.
So even at the level of ecosystem, we have a diversity. Mostly students associate, when we say biodiversity, they associate it with this, because this is what we normally read everywhere in news and books. So it's called ecological diversity. Okay. And by ecological diversity, I mean that now you have to compare bigger regions like countries. So this is where humans who have made borders come into picture. And if you compare one country with another, so for example, if I compare India with any European country, what am I going to see is different?
The climatic condition.
India also has similar climate as of Europe at many places. Do you know that? Or it is not possible? What does India have that any European country does not have?
Genetic diversity.
So you mean Europe's all the dogs are just one kind of dogs with same genes?
No.
What Europe does not have effectively is a desert present with a delta, present with a mangrove, present with a beach, present with a lake, present with a mountain, river plains, plateaus. So India has everything within its territorial boundary. So India is a very big biodiversity hotspot in the world. It has 9 biodiversity hotspot, which is huge a number for any single country. So if you see India as a desert, right? Thar desert. And the conditions in a desert and the kind of organisms you will find in a desert are very different from if you go from west to east. It has a mangrove forest, Sundarbans, situated in a delta. Okay, they are the kind of organisms that live and their diversity is completely different. Trees are submerged in water, desert is completely dry. If you go up north, you will find mountains and mountainous ecosystem, okay, including snow leopards. If you go down south, you will find a very different ecosystem close to equator, and very different kind of life. Do you understand? What do I mean by ecological diversity? So India has deserts, rainforest, mangroves, coral reefs, everything. Plain, grasslands, all. Okay, so write down. At the ecosystem level, ecological diversity is studied at the ecosystem level. Where one region has many ecosystems compared to the other regions, or more ecosystem compared to the other regions. You can give example as India being ecologically rich than European countries, like any country you pick, Finland, Norway, Germany. Or even Saudi Arabia. Okay. Are all the 3 levels clear to you, everyone?
Yes.
Okay. So this chapter is more of like a discussion based chapter where you have to understand some concepts. Now we realize that the levels, and for this chapter I will be focusing majorly on the species and the ecological level, because at the genetic level it is very, very tedious and humongous amount of study that we have to do to understand genetic diversity. So we'll not go to that in this chapter. So we'll talk about organisms and their habitats. Okay. Now, all of you have NCERT with you?
Yes.
No,
Can you
sir.
open? No? Okay. So let me do this one thing. This one activity we have to do.
Sir, I'm outside. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay, Fatima. I'll pull it out. So others, those who have NCERT, please come to page number 260. Page 260, and just 1 moment.
The graph, right, sir?
Yes,
The
there
pie
is
chart.
a global biodiversity. Yes, pie chart, right. Let me pull it out for Fatima. Yep. Okay, got it. Where are you, Fatima, by the way, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm in the car going back home.
Wow, you take classes from your car? It's very,
Yeah.
that's very determined of you, I will say. Often people. Okay. Can you see this graph, Fatima?
It's not visible right now.
The screen is not shared.
The screen is shared, but I can't see the
The
graph.
book, sorry.
Okay, thank God. The screen is shared, right?
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
sir.
Let me. Yes. Do you see this graph?
Yes, sir.
Now, what I want you people to do is, I'm giving you 4 minutes each of you. No need to read anything up or down. Just on your own, you have to explain me this graph in not more than 6 sentences. Okay. Total sentences allowed is 6 sentences. All the 3 pie charts. 6 sentences, and you have to summarize this graph. Okay. What do you understand by that? Is it okay, Fatima, Matthew, and Arpit? See, 6 sentences are too less. So you have to do a good job of condensing. Okay. Is it clear, everyone? Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So time starts now. If you understand this, if you explain me this, I promise that the concepts that are going to come the next are going to be very easy for you. There are just 3 concepts in this chapter. One, we have understood the levels of diversity. 2 more. But let's do this before.
So we all each should give 6 sentences, or all of us together.
No, everyone will give just 6 sentences to summarize this whole graph. So if you see, in a way, there is 2 sentences per pie chart, but you can be more creative, and let's see. Okay. I'll resume after 4 minutes. You can ask if you have any doubts.
So aren't we allowed to see the what's underneath this, like at least the name of this graph?
Yeah, you can just say the graph. Let's name it 1, 2, 3.
No,
pie
like
chart 1.
in the textbook underneath it's written like figure whatever, and it's
The
written
legend you mean. The legend is not very useful. Let me tell you. The legend just say what you can see. This is a global biodiversity proportionate pie chart. These are not exact figures, it's just a proportion. That's what the legend says. So I'm asking you to be creative. Suppose this is the presentation that you are going to give to someone. What are you going to say? Okay, just 6 sentences. 2 more minutes. Okay, are you done? Shall we begin, or anyone wants more time? Am I audible, people?
Yeah.
So are you done? You want more time?
2 minutes more, sir. I'm just jotting down my
Yeah.
points again.
Yeah, I think the difficult task is to decide what not to say. And also one more thing, apart from these 6 sentences, you are allowed one more sentence to tell me what is wrong in this figure. So there is one thing which is wrong conceptually in this figure. So if you find it out, you can say that as the 7th sentence, but you have to tell me that the mistake in this thing is this. Otherwise, if you don't find it out, it's okay. You can just say 6 sentences. Okay, let's begin now. More than what I thought. Who will start? That's the toughest job. Anyone who would like to volunteer? The one who will volunteer, I'll give that person one extra sentence. If you want it. Anyone who would like to go first? But if I choose any one of you to go first, then that offer is not valid.
Sir, you choose.
Okay. So let's start with Matthew.
Oh,
Okay.
all right then. Okay.
Okay, Matthew. 6 sentences, remember. And you have to
Yes,
say it.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, number 1, 2, 3, right? Yeah. So the
Yep.
first sentence is in invertebrates, insects are seen as the more insects are represented as the more having more biodiversity. The second sentence is it can be due to their ability to reproduce quick, which
This is
can
second
increase
sentence, right?
speciation. Yeah, second sentence. Yeah, due to
Okay.
which is it can increase the speciation. The third sentence is invertebrates, fishes are seen as the most represented in global biodiversity among vertebrates. It could be due to their ability to yeah, it could also be traced to the ability to form a lot of eggs, which can be it can be again fertilized by other fishes, which are more healthier, you could say. The third,
Right.
my fourth sentence is in plants, both
This was the
fungi,
fourth sentence
which
where you said that
oh,
it
oh
could
yeah,
be
sorry. Yeah.
because
So the
of
fifth,
yeah.
so the fifth sentence, fungi and angiosperms are seen as the most represented among plants. It could be due to their varied speciation, especially in angiosperms, because they undergo a lot of allelic differences. And the seventh sentence is actually prokaryotes are missing. They are not represented among the
No, but
yeah.
that's there. No, that it says that it is this just the proportionate number of the major taxa. So prokaryotes, what is missing is not a mistake. The mistake is in what is present. Okay. So 6 sentences, very
Oh,
good. So let me first
yeah.
talk about Matthew's points. Matthew used a very important thing which is not here based on his own logical reasoning, is why insects are the most abundant in invertebrates and also has the highest diversity. So if you see more than 75%, so if it's 90-degree, then it is 75%, right? More than 75% is just insects in invertebrates, around 80%, let's say. And Matthew used a statement on his own logical reasoning that insects reproduce fast. That's true. Insects have very small life cycles. That also is a very major factor. So if you see flies only live for around 2 to 3 weeks. That's all they live for. That's their maximum life span. Their life cycle is even shorter, just a week or 10 days. Within that, they can make new generations, and that also not one or two, but thousands of new eggs can be laid. So that was a very, very good point by Matthew and very amazing point. About the fish, though, what he said that the reason could be that they lay more eggs. That's if you see comparatively, that can hold true, but amphibians also live lots of eggs. If you see frogs laying eggs or other amphibians laying egg, because they lay egg in the water, so they also lay lots of egg comparative to fish. But amphibians are very small, and this could not be just like justified or explained by Matthew's reason here, but he tried his best. That was a good point, very good. And yes, about the plants, your points were just normal. What is seen that fungi and angiosperms are the two dominating um, two dominating components. Good. So overall, very good points, Matthew. Great start. Yes. So let's go to Fatima and then we'll go to Arpit.
Okay, my first sentence is in invertebrates. Insects has the highest biodiversity. My second sentence is other animal groups, crustaceans, mollusks, comparatively to insects have lower biodiversity. Third sentence in vertebrate. This is just analysis of the pie chart, right?
Right.
Okay, so in vertebrates, fishes have the highest biodiversity. Fourth sentence is whereas mammals, birds, reptiles, amphibians have less biodiversity comparatively to fishes. Fifth sentence is in plants. The two dominant biodiversities seen are fungi and angiosperms. Uh, but fungi is having more biodiversity than angiosperms. My sixth sentence is mosses, ferns, and algae, lichens, comparatively to fungi and angiosperms, have very less biodiversity.
Yes. No seventh. You would like would you like to point out any mistake?
Didn't find a mistake.
Okay, cool. So let me also give my feedback on Fatima's point. So Fatima did one thing good. Whenever you are in doubt, because you're writing an exam at the end of the day. So whenever in doubt, stick to the analysis, right? If you don't want to take the risk of being wrong, stick to the analysis. So I gave points to Matthew where he tried to be more explanatory. He incorporated some good points, but what he missed, because the limit was 6 sentences. So what he missed, Fatima included, is that she did not only talk about the major ones like insects and fishes and angiosperm and fungi, but she also included other groups' name. What you could have done better is, even in the other groups, you could have in one sentence said um, followed by birds, then reptiles. So it will give you a wholesome thing, right, Fatima? And one thing that I would like to point out is, just by looking at this pie chart, we don't know if fungi has more biodiversity than angiosperm. We just know that these two are the dominant ones. Okay.
Yes.
Remember, these are proportions, these are not numbers. So you cannot conclude. So in science, we only conclude as much as we can defend by the data. So if I ask you, how can you say that fungi has more biodiversity than angiosperms based on this pie chart? So we cannot say that, right? Okay, Fatima. But overall,
Yeah.
a very good effort. Great. Arpit, over to you. I think last one is the most difficult one.
Sir, like I almost had the same.
Yeah, let's go over. Let's go over. I'm okay. So you are just 3 people. I'm doing it for all my students. So I know that even if you think that it is same, it might, because till now I have never found exactly the same 6 sentences by any 2 students. It's not just possible. That's called student cerebral capacity diversity. Okay. Your 6 points, Arpit, and 7th if you have figured out a mistake.
Yes, sir. So like the first is that in the invertebrates, so the insects, they constitute the major part of the biodiversity. And sir, the molluscus, the crustaceans, they constitute the least in the least biodiversity in the invertebrates. So in the vertebrates, the fishes, so they constitute about the 50% of the biodiversity. And in the vertebrates, the amphibians have a very less biodiversity. And so in the case of plants, so I have just done the analysis on the, so I
Right.
don't find
Fatima has
any
also done the
point.
analysis only. It's okay. Even Matthew has also done the analysis only.
Yeah, so yes, sir, in the uh, plants, the angiosperms are more, uh, like they have more biodiversity as compared to fungi. So this for all my friends.
Okay, great. So do you want to utilize the 7th sentence to spot any mistake? It's okay, like no pressures. Because when I will spot the mistake, you all will be all of a sudden, because you people are smarter than me, like compared to the age. So you will say, yes, yes, we knew this. Okay, so all of you
Is it the
analyze
other animal groups?
Okay, no, it's not the other animal groups.
Uh,
Let's go. Okay, so overall, there could not have been a better analysis. You all analyzed it correct. So one thing that you all could have done. So what could have you could have done better? Feedback is, invertebrates and vertebrates together, they are animals, right? So in the combined animal pool, we see that insects and fish, they are the major. And you know that insects are major because of their short lifespan. Matthew's point, very correctly put. Fishes are abundant because 70% of the earth's surface is water. So their habitat, we cannot take their habitat from them. It's not that easy. We have to pollute their habitat. So we can get rid of lots of freshwater fish easily by polluting rivers and ponds and lakes. But it's very difficult to get rid of all the species of marine fish, even though bigger predatory fish often bear the most um, brutal results of human activities, like sharks and whales. So they are also reducing. But still, in terms of species, this is the graph for species diversity, not the number of individuals in each species. If you see that, of course, fishes are very, very endangered. Even those which we harvest for eating, like for human consumption, even those are very, very at the brink of collapse. So fisheries is facing problem, but the diversity of the fish that is present on earth is huge, and that diversity was formed over millions of years, and it formed more in water because one obvious reason is life originated from water, and the first vertebrates were fish that evolved in water. All the land vertebrates have come from fish. And how do we know that? Because there are many fossil records and evidences showing that fish, or the kind of fish that started coming out of water and started crawling on the ground, they they were the pioneer for forming amphibians and reptiles later on. Okay, one of the very famous example is Tiktaalik. It's called Tiktaalik. Some people say Tiktaalik, whatever you say. If you go and look at Tiktaalik's fossil, you will realize that fish, that's the kind of a aquatic organism who have front eyes for the first time. And front eyes are very important to get out of water, okay, or to be at the surface. You will see the same features in a crocodile, okay, because crocodiles hunt near the surface. They don't go deep into the water and hunt, okay. So these are the two reasons you could have clubbed together. And the mistake, almost everything you said was correct. The mistake is fungi are not plants, correct, people? Are fungi plants? Remember the 5 kingdom classification?
Yes, sir. We are so dumb, all of us.
oh my god.
Fungi is a different kingdom.
It
It's not
literally
animal.
went past my head.
All of
It did?
us. We are not in 12th
Yeah, it
grade.
is.
No, it's not about, none of you are dumb, first of all. Second thing, some things, the most obvious things are in front of our eyes, but we don't see it. So if you remember, that's why I say that in biology, it's very easy to pass. All of you just analyze this. And if you do the analysis, write it in exam, if any question comes on this kind of a graph, you will get full marks. No one will deduct your marks for not pointing out the mistake. But I asked you because that way you can connect different chapters together. So why did we study it in the first place? When we started studying biology, the classification. Why did they tell us that there is a 5 kingdom classification in which fungi has been given its own kingdom, right? It's a eukaryote with a cell wall made up of chitin. Remember that? So it's not a plant technically.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. But they have shown it because basically it's like when we talk about diversity, there is a term which was used in the beginning by Arpit, which was called flora and fauna, right? The word flora comes for all vegetation or all plants, but in flora, fungi is included. And in fauna, all animals which are not plants, which is not a vegetation, is included. The flora and fauna definition is not very clear, but there is no third word. You cannot include flora, fauna, XYZ. You just say flora and fauna. So flora means anything that is vegetative, fauna is anything which is related to animals. So that's why these fungi has been shown you in this global biodiversity chart, but it is not a good fit here. Correct. So if you remove that, you will realize that angiosperms dominate the plants, right? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And if you remember studying in class, no, not in class 11th, you in chapter 7, you remember studying evolution? Remember this angiosperm? Let me connect some dots here with previous knowledge. This is angiosperm. See how much it shares. Forget about fungi for now. And let me take you back to evolution. I hope we have done the, did we looked at the summary of animal and plant evolution? Yes, we did. Can you all see this? Everyone?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Can you see this? How wide is this branch and what is this branch of?
Angiosperm.
And where it is? Current. In the quaternary period, which is current, no other branch is as wide as angiosperm branches. So angiosperms are the most abundant plant on planet Earth right now. There was a time before Jurassic. So if I cut this here, there seems to be an expansion. So let me delete all of this for some better understanding. Now we are going back to chapter 7 to understand something. So if I cut it here, before this, do you see that there were angiosperms at all on the planet? There were very less, right?
Yes.
So before Jurassic period, there was not much angiosperms. Okay, and angiosperms also include grasses, which because monocots, grasses are monocots, and grasses do flower. So this theory is now being challenged by recent studies that this branch would not be as narrow as we think, because we believe that when dinosaurs were roaming during the Triassic and Jurassic, there were not grasslands with grasses because they were monocots were not abundant. So what were abundant during Jurassic period was conifers, ferns, bryophytes, and cycads. This is what we believe based on the fossil evidences. But recent evidences which are coming from um, fossil records of scientists have figured out the sites where dinosaurs breed and keep their eggs and where their dungs have been found. So over time, dinosaur eggs, they become what do you call it, petrified, like they become like rocks, but you can still figure it out that they are dinosaur eggs. They're not rocks because of the composition. Okay, rock is a rock at the end, and any organic matter that converted to rock will have a different signature. And the same thing is there with the dinosaur dung. Sometimes that also gets petrified or fossilized, and that has shown evidences for grass or monocots might be there, like genomic evidences.
How
So
is it
now, sorry.
How is it possible that in dung you can understand that there was angiosperm flowers over there?
Yeah, because of the chemical signatures. So cellulose is something which is coming majorly from, so cellulose in one thing which tells us about difference between plants and all other kind of flora, right? So cellulosic plants are the high-end plants, right? But even bryophytes contain. So how will you distinguish from a fungi and a plant based on cellulose, chitin component or cellulosic? So there are ways which which are beyond the discussion of your syllabus. But just take my word for now. that you can distinguish based on the texture of the dung. So not talking about, will not talk too much about shit and poop, but if you analyze the excreta of a carnivore versus the excreta of a herbivore, just by the texture of it, you can tell that whether this is excreta of a carnivore or a herbivore. Okay. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, but then
The same,
that
yeah.
doesn't tell that there were angiosperms specifically over there.
Yes, right. So when someone's diet is majorly a grass, okay, and depends which kind of grass. Grass means monocot I'm talking about. So bamboo is also a grass family, right? So when you have specific kind of a diet, when herbivores feed on a grass versus something which is very juicy like a bryophyte or a conifer, their uh, texture of their excreta is different. So on that basis, you can say that there must be grass component in this excreta, even in the way it has been petrified. So it's solidified, right, in time. So it's like a
Yeah.
snapshot solidified in time. You break it, you scan the layer through a scanning microscope, and you will realize that, oh, you will find, because everything won't be completely 100% digested. You know, herbivores have a um, longer gut than carnivores because it's very difficult to digest plant source. It is easier to digest animal source. Can anyone tell me why? Very simple logic.
Cellulose, that's why.
Plants have a cell wall which is made up of cellulose, which is not easily, digestible. Very good, very good answer. Okay, so now we think that this branch could have been wider, not as wide as it is today or not as wide as conifers, but slightly wider than what we believe. So it was not very grassless. Oh, sorry, what did I do? Okay, sorry. So in short, I was trying to say it was not a very grassless environment when dinosaurs were roaming and when herbivore dinosaurs were feeding. They might be abundant, if not like present, but still enough grass present. So do you understand where
Yes,
does
sir.
this thing comes from? Angiosperm.
Yes, sir.
Another thing which no one of you included is why lichens are very, very less, even though they are symbiotic relationships. So they have more chances of flourishing because they are two organisms living together. Yes, Fatima.
This pie charts are of what time? Like present
These are
or
present, yes. When we are this is just current. We are studying about current biodiversity and trying to conserve it.
okay, so if it is current, then lichens cannot be present because there's too much of pollution and lichens don't grow in pollution.
Perfect. Perfect. So lichens, though they are a symbiotic relationship between two, see, fungi is present a lot in abundance, right? So you can see lichen is association between a fungi and
Algae.
algae. So fungi is a lot, algae is a lot. Why isn't their symbiotic relationships are doing good? Because the symbiotic relationship is very, very sensitive to pollution, both air and water. And with the increasing pollution, and so lichens are mostly, we call it pollution indicator. If you find lichen somewhere, that environment is very good. So if you go to mountain forests which are untouched by humans, or if you go to some wilderness like some original sanctuaries, wildlife reserves, you will find lichens on trees, but you won't find lichen on trees anywhere near your home or in urban area localities, okay, that easily. So that's why. Perfect. So all of you have done a good job and well done. 3 claps for yourself, and let's move forward. Now, in this chapter, what is majorly we are going to cover? If you have understood this, if you have understood how to analyze biodiversity, how to understand the reason for diversity, now we will be talking about two things. One is patterns. This is the second concept. Patterns of biodiversity. Question is biodiversity random? Like at any given place, there can be more organisms, at any given place, there can be less organisms. So my question is, why in a desert there is less biodiversity? Why not lots and lots of animals, you know, adapted to a desert condition and
Because
flourish
of
there? Yes, Fatima.
climate conditions.
So yes, so we have to understand this perspective. When we say climatic condition, so a desert is not a suitable climatic condition for a human or for an amphibian. But for a camel, it is a suitable climatic condition, right? Camels won't do very good in a rainforest. You understand?
Yes, sir.
So my question is why there aren't 10,000 species of camel, let's say. Why there aren't 10,000 different species of a desert rat? Why there are just few organisms that survive in desert? Because those who survive, they are well adapted for a desert condition. You understand? I'm talking about diversity. So why is there less diversity at one region and why there is more diversity at one region? Is it totally random or is it actually governed by something logical? So this is what we call patterns of biodiversity. And we will realize, I'm giving you a hint, something to study today. So what you have to study in this is the major climatic belts and how are they formed. So we know that there is something called, at equator there is an equatorial region. Around equatorial region on both sides there are tropical belts. As we go up like north or south, there will be temperate belts, and towards the north pole and the south pole there will be a tundra belt, right? So basically the climate also changes as we go from equator to tundra. The temperature reduces, right? Also the sunlight, the daylight, or what you call as the photo period, that also reduces. So that is one thing. So that's called latitudinal factor that regulates pattern of biodiversity. Second is altitude, not going from equator to north, but going from the sea level to up. Okay, because then also the temperature reduces, then also the air pressure reduces, right? As we go up in the mountain, the air pressure reduces. That also governs how organisms are going to adapt and form new species. Okay, so that is the second thing we'll be talking in tomorrow's class. And towards the end, the last part will be conservation, and again the logics, the concept of how to conserve biodiversity. First, why to conserve it at all. So there will be some answers that you have to write in the exam. We'll discuss that. I think deep down you all know why we should conserve biodiversity, because we have a moral obligation to not kill life from earth. But apart from that, and how do we do that? Once we
So
have
the question
realized, yes.
you asked that, for example, in deserts, why there is no diversity? Is it because they're not properly reproductively fit? Because of that, variations are there.
I think they are fit. They are reproductively. If they were not fit reproductively, they would not have been evolved at all in the first place to survive in an extreme environment like a desert. Correct. So the reason that they are there ensures that they are reproductively fit. That's why that species is existing from millions of years. Correct. I'm asking that why we have few species as compared to when you see different species of amphibians in a rainforest versus species of camel or species of rat or a species of snake in a desert. Why there is a limitation? Or the species of polar organisms, like why we have a polar bear, why we don't have 500 different types of polar bears, like we
Sir,
have more. Yeah,
sir, it basically depends upon the ability of an organism to adapt in a particular, region.
yeah, they're all well
So,
adapted. You're correct, your point is very valid. But in 2022, sorry, 2023 now, it just began, right? So in 2023, every polar bear which is in the Arctic Ocean is well adapted, is reproductively fit, and Arctic region is the most habitable environment or suitable environment for a polar bear. If I think that Arctic environment is very, very extreme, so let me take all the polar bears and bring them to Italy or to Europe, they will all die. They will not survive. They will not do very good because they are adapted to live there. For them, it is their heaven. For us, it is not. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So what is the reason?
What is the reason? We'll discuss in the next class. Okay. Read a little bit of NCERT, come up with your ideas, and tomorrow, because the foundation is set, we will try to do these two concepts and wrap this chapter. Is it clear, everyone?
Okay, sir.
Sorry for leaving you at a cliffhanger, but I think that will
Suspense.
yes, we'll discuss tomorrow. Maybe by